started making Movie Storm about what 7 or 8 years ago, and the idea was we wanted to have something which was easy to use, didn't have any kind of issues with copyright, and most importantly, it was designed from the ground up as a film engine. It wasn't a game engine with hacks or a virtual world that you could record with fraps or whatever. It was designed to be a film engine. And that's largely what I've been doing for the last few years, is developing that. But part of the reason why we did this is that we could see several years ago that machinima as a medium was something which was full of potential for all sorts of things, not just for making movies with, but also as a way for people to learn how to make movies, as a way to help filmmakers, and so on. So much of what I've actually been doing for the last 2 years is working with filmmakers and film students and film teachers at all levels, just working out how machinima can help them. Now, obviously, I've been focusing on Movie Storm, but actually goes much wider than that. I've been very interested seeing, while I've been at various film schools, those who use Second Life, they use The Sims, they use Matinee, they use all sorts of tools to help out. Now I'm going to plug the thing that I've been doing. Today I released the first volume in a series of books that I've been writing. This is a book called Make Better Movies with Movie Storm. Obviously I'm sitting here in Second Life talking to a bunch of Second Life machinimators. Let me reassure you that the book is not about Movie Storm. It's not intended for Movie Storm filmmakers. It's more a general book about machinima. I just happen to pick on Movie Storm because it's the platform that I know. And what it's a book about is how you can use machinima to develop your movie making skills. Phil South, the guy who wrote the introduction to the book, who's a filmmaker in the southwest of England, likened it to a pilot learning to fly. When you're learning to fly, you don't spend most of your time in an aeroplane because that's far too expensive and far too dangerous, especially if you're going to practice some of the riskier maneuvers. You do it all in a simulator. And to some extent, that's what machinima is like. It's like a film simulator. You can film the things that you need. You don't have to worry about how dangerous it might be if you're filming a big pyrotechnic sequence or a stunt sequence or a fight sequence. You don't have to worry about getting all the kit. You can just put your cameras where you want it. You don't need to hire helicopters and stuff like that. And you can just film the things that you need. Now, I was actually quite shocked over the last few years to discover, for example, that most film students will generate less than 10 minutes of footage in their entire 3 years of film school. It's a terrifyingly small amount. Most of the machinimators I know will generate 10 minutes of footage every month, very possibly 10 minutes of footage every week. And let's bear in mind that when we say 10 minutes of footage, that's probably 3 short films they've shot. And on one of those films they've been director, on one they've been cameraman, and on one they've been doing lights or sound or something like that. So they've had very, very little experience in actually making movies. Now, you guys here, and me, we've made a lot more movies than that. We've had experience of doing sound, video, editing, camera work, music, directing, set design, costume design, everything. We're shooting like crazy. I worked it out that I've shot several hundred hours of footage in the last few years. Possibly if you count all the extra retakes and so on I've done thousands. And most of this isn't big flashy stuff. It's very simple things. Let me take one example. If you were asked to film a character walking along a corridor, going in through a door, to meet somebody inside a room, there are lots of different ways you could film that. You could film from in front, tracking the character as they walk. You can film from behind. You can have static cameras. You can have moving cameras. You can have close-ups. All of this lot. It's just a stylistic decision depending on what you want to do with the story and how it shows. They all look different. If you're doing this in machinima, you can film that as many times as you want, over and over again. If you don't like it, retake it, reshoot it, move on. You've edited your film, you don't like it, never mind, do it differently next time. If you're filming this in real life, very possibly the first time you shoot this is the first time you've ever done this, and you've got your entire film crew sitting around waiting, you've got your actors sitting around waiting, and you're just looking at a storyboard and saying, well, this looks good in the comic format. I'm assuming it's going to work in, it's going to work okay in film. But of course, we know it doesn't. What looks good just doesn't look good. So yeah, as somebody says, we were talking of thousands of dollars an hour. Even on student productions, I mean, it's a lot of work just to try and get enough people together to do everything. And shooting 2 or 3 minutes of film in an afternoon is about as much as you can do. So we see Machinima as a great way for people just to practice and practice and practice, because shooting movies isn't about the theory of it. We can all read the books, you can all go to school, you can learn this stuff. It's about practice and doing it. So, in some sense, any of you out there could probably walk onto a film set right now and you shot more footage than most of the people on that set. And we're seeing this as a great way for people to learn about their craft in a nice, simple way, which is where the book came from. The other thing we were looking at was pre-visualization. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that term, but basically the idea is that you shoot a rough version of your movie before you shoot the real thing. And the whole purpose of this is that if you have any problems, and a shot that's not going to work, or a set that's not going to work, or a scene that's not going to work, you find this out in pre-production when you can fix it quickly and easily. Most big movies do that these days. They normally call it an animatic. But they're moving on from just plain storyboards into something which is animated, where you have sound, where you have motion, and you can actually edit it and effectively watch the film before you've made it. The problem is that for most animatics, they're shot with something like Max or Maya, and they take an awful lot of work to do. They get passed on to specialist animation departments, and as a result, it's only the big movies who can afford to do it. Of course, the great thing with Machinima is because it's cheap and it's easy and it's fast, you can afford to do this on pretty much any level of production. Now, to give you an example, I was doing some work with some students at Full Sail University here in Orlando, and we were shooting a series of really short little sketch movies, 2 minutes each. And they were set up getting ready to film, and I sat down with the director and the editor. Very significant, the editor was involved right at that point, and using Movie Storm, we did a very, very quick version of the movie based on their storyboard. In the time that it took them to set up the cameras and the lights, we had a complete cut of the movie. That was all. The cameras and lights set up, just putting the things on the tripod, getting the lens, getting the lights out, deciding where they want them, and we cut the movie. Now, this had two very important effects. First of all, it meant that everybody on the set could watch that and see exactly what was required and exactly what shots we were going to get. The actors knew when they were going to be on set, on camera, when they were going to be off camera. We all knew what we were doing. More importantly, though, we found a couple of shots that looked great on the storyboard, but when we cut them together into the movie, they didn't work. Now, they just felt awkward and jumpy, and we were able there and then to say, okay, well, how about we don't cut there, we cut here, and we cut to one of these shots. And over here, we don't move that camera, we just keep it static and then cut to this. Tried it out, and within a couple of minutes, everyone said, yep, that's a much better version of it. And so we shot the version that we'd done there. Now, the great thing here was that not only did this mean we shot the film a lot faster, they budgeted 4 hours to shoot this, we did it in 2. So we halved the production time, even on a really, really tiny production. And secondly, the editor was so grateful because he knew exactly what was being shot. He could look at the shots as they were being taken and say, yep, that one's going to work. And he was editing in Avid on a laptop on set while we were shooting. And they reckon they halved the post-production time as well. So, yeah, that's just a very simple example of what Machinima can offer to real filmmakers. And the same is true if you're working in animation as well. Animation takes just as long to produce as real life footage. And so anything you can do to speed that process up is great. So in some senses, what we think of, the way we think of machinima is I think of it as a film sketching tool. It means you can put a film up really fast, put it together really quickly. It's not full and polished in the way that it would be if you were filming it at Pixar or making it in real life. But you can get something out very, very fast indeed that gets the idea across. So, I mean, creatively, that's a fantastic thing to be able to do. It's a really good way to make a movie, just because it's fast, it's fun, you can get the idea across. But also, to practice making movies, it's just the equivalent of an artist sitting there scribbling things over and over and over and just drawing rough sketches. And then the previs, it's like that. It's the pencil drawing before you get onto the pen and ink and so on. So yeah, as somebody just posted there, film light. That's exactly the way we see machinima. So yeah, all of you guys out here making movies in Second Life, and if you wanted to take those skills and bring them into the film world, you've got more skills than you may realize. It took me a while to realize, how much I knew about movies just from having made all this footage in machinima, being around real filmmakers, and I could say, well, why don't you cut it this way? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? And they go, where did you go to film school? I didn't. I taught myself. I read books, and I just practiced. So yeah, the book that I've written, I'll paste up a link to it just now. So yeah, you can get the book from there. It's a free download, and what I've done with it is I've made a series of exercises for filmmakers. Examples being like the walk I've got, where you can say, okay, here's a simple piece of film I want you to shoot, and shoot it several different ways, compare and contrast all the different versions you've got. For example, we've got things like shooting a scene and do it all in close-up, and then further out, say, now shoot it again, but all with longer shots, just to compare the difference. And whatever your medium, whether you're using Movie Storm or anything else, you're going to find an awful lot that you can learn about the way you make movies that you can then take into any other medium. So, it's not Movie Storm specific at all. You can use that no matter what you're filming in. So, yeah, I mean, I'm seeing the various people commenting on machinima being a valid genre of itself and a medium of its own. Absolutely, it is. It's not purely a gateway to other things, in just the same way that if you're an artist, pencil and paper is not purely a gateway to other things. You can use it as a first stage to other forms of artwork, but a well-drawn sketch is a great piece of art. And so a good machinima is indeed, it's a good piece of filmmaking. It's actually a very challenging medium to work in because there's so much that you can't do. You're very much constrained by what you can do within the engine you've got, unlike if you're filming with other tools, you're a lot freer. But as I was told when I started my filmmaking career, the Orson Welles quote, the absence of limitations is the enemy of art. So it's really good to find yourself working within constraints and realizing, you can't do this and you can't do that. And actually, I found myself a lot of the time, it's one of the most interesting parts of the filmmaking process is to go, I can't actually do that simply by showing it. So how can I find a way around it? Simple things like going, I can't pick up an object without it looking slightly odd. It'll jump into my hand. It doesn't look reasonable. But if you film it right with the correct camera angles, the right bits of cutting, you can make people believe that they've seen something they haven't. And it's always really satisfying when you can do that. One of the examples I give in the book actually is, I don't know if you must have seen the film Rosemary's Baby. And right at the end there, everyone talks about this amazing shot where they look into the crib and there's a baby with little devil horns on. And almost everybody believes they've seen that shot. The fact is, it's not there. The shot is not in that movie. Roman Polanski never made it. He's just made you believe that you've seen something you haven't. So, that to me is one of the most masterful pieces of filmmaking around. And that's the kind of trick I would love to be able to pull off. So, yeah, sorry if I just spoiled it for a bunch of you. so, so anyway, I've as I said, I'm here primarily as a movie storm person. Um, what is there that you guys would like to know about Movie Storm or the other stuff that I've been doing? Open to you because I know they're very, very different environments to work in. Movie Storm is primarily scripted. It's much more like traditional animation stuff, and it's very much a solo thing. Second Life, on the other hand, is much more about live performance and multiple players and so on. So, yeah, interested to hear your thoughts on where where the similarities and differences are.
I tried Movie Storm, and for some reason with my processor, it was not able to actually function. Are there any improvements to make it so that it can be now with any sort of, processor system or graphics card? It's like to make it graphics cards, like more wider versions of graphics cards, because that's what the tech support initially were telling me. It's like, is there going to be new improvements so that it's like it's user friendly to everybody?
How long ago was that?
Maybe 4 months ago.
Okay, no, there certainly haven't been any improvements in the last few months. Movie Storm is fairly graphics processor intensive, so yeah, it does require a fairly powerful graphics card to make it work. That being said, though, I run it on my $300 laptop from Best Buy, and it works. The key thing was I switched off all the shadows, switched off all the special lighting effects, and it does run. Doesn't like having more than about 10 or 12 characters in a scene, but on the other hand, it does function, so it may do what you need. Just try switching all the graphics options right down and see if that helps. That's all I could suggest.
Okay.
Friday asks, are all the animations in Movie Storm preset, or is there a tool to modify them? They are basically preset, but on the other hand, we do have a full modders workshop, which enables you to make your own characters, import them, make your own props and import them, and make your own animations and import them. I'm not an animator. It actually is one of the key reasons I built Movie Storm, is because I don't want to know anything about animation. I don't want to know anything about 3D modeling. I just want to be able to direct people. So yeah, you can create mods, and those mods can include animations. So that exists. It's not, as far as I know, particularly user friendly, and I don't like using it. So yeah. Let me just catch up on there. Scout asks, yeah, Movie Storm's character all of a certain body shape. Yes, that is true. Movie Storm's characters aren't nearly as varied as the characters in Second Life. We do have males and females are of different heights, which is one advance on the movies, which was our baseline when we started. But there's very little change in the body size. We should be getting child characters early next year, but fundamentally the Movie Storm characters are pretty similar to one another. All characters are also humanoid. We have somebody who's made some cats and dogs and birds and so on, but generally that is one limitation of Movie Storm we're very much aware of, and something where Second Life has a lot more to offer. Has anyone mixed Movie Storm and Second Life filming? Yes, they have. I've certainly seen people do it. The main trick that people are using is basically green screen. Movie Storm includes a chroma key set, which is completely green floor, green background. You can film the characters in there and then map that together with environments from Second Life, and other people have done the same thing. Frankly, I have the most immense admiration for people who have the time and the patience to do that. It drives me crazy trying to do that kind of green screening, particularly if there's any kind of match moving to do on the cameras. That's really, really hard work, but I have seen it done very effectively. I've also seen Movie Storm mixed up with live action, which was very impressive. One of the first Movie Storm movies ever made, and I do really mean one of the first Movie Storm movies ever made. I think it was about the fourth or fifth movie that came back from our beta testers, was somebody putting Movie Storm characters into a car on a ride at Disney, which was fantastic to see. And not something I would have thought of doing, but the guy proved right from the very beginning that you could do that, so that was kind of fun. Right, so the workshop is using outside tools. Friday, can you explain what you mean a little bit more by that? I'll come back to that one, Friday, if you can explain what you mean. In terms of how similar it is to iClone, I must admit I haven't used the latest version of iClone. I've seen the one before. iClone involves a lot more animation. It's a lot more of an animator's tool. Movie Storm we think of as much more of a film director's tool. In many ways, it's a lot like The Sims, in that you simply tell the characters what to do and they go and do it. You don't have to animate anything at all. You don't have to learn any kind of complicated 3D jargon. It's like that. The only difference is that whereas The Sims is a game that you have to beat, if you want a character to be happy, you have to feed them and make them socialise, make sure they're well rested, and eventually they'll smile for you. In Movie Storm, all of that is completely under the control of the director. You want a character to be happy, you'll be happy. As Matthew asks, okay, one of the limitations in Second Life is facial expressions. When we started with Movie Storm, we looked at the kind of machinima that was around and we said, well, it's mostly game videos. It's all about running around and blowing things up. And we wanted to create drama. And so we said, okay, what are the three things that we need to do to create drama? The answer was walking, talking, and acting. In most games, it's actually really difficult to walk. You just run everywhere. Second Life and The Sims are the main exceptions to that. But most of all, walking was a hard enough thing. We just wanted people to walk where they wanted to do. We wanted to get away from this whole grid part of the Sims and just give you a lot more freeform. Talking, one of the first decisions we took is that we would have automated lip sync. So when you give your character something to say, you can talk straight into Movie Storm, or you can import a voice file, and your characters will lip sync. And you can also control the amount of lip movement, so you can have them on, just making very tiny little Jack Palance type moves where you can hardly see their face, hardly see the lips move, or you can go for the full-on singing and big mouth moves. And then emotions. And we deliberately decided that we were going to put a lot of effort into what we called our gesturizer, where you can layer on a whole bunch of gestures. You can simultaneously apply gestures to arms, legs, face, mouth, eyes, the whole body, trying to get, you can get a lot of expression onto them. And you have a mood controller, so you can say to a character, I want you to be happy. And you can control how much they smile. You can control whether they're going to shout to be happy by jumping up and down or clapping or just adopting a different body posture. So, facial expressions and body language, particularly combined with the right kind of lighting and the right kind of camera, you can get a lot of emotion out of the Movie Storm characters. I'm just going to put up another link here. That's our Vimeo channel, which has the best of Movie Storm, which has about 80 videos by various people, not us, which will show you a good idea of what you can do with that. And some of those have some really, really good acting in, which I like. Scout asks, does Movie Storm have a multiracial set of characters? Yes, it does. It actually has an interesting variant on the standard sort of character creator, where what you can do is you can mix characters by their ethnicity. So you can have a character who you say is part African, part Asian, and you can choose how much of those it's going to be, and then you can mix between old and young, and then mix in various different head shapes, which is quite a fun way to work. It's a little complicated to start with, but once you get used to it, you can find there's an awful lot you can do with it. Okay, Pookie asks, how's Movie Storm fared as a platform for commercial use? Well, okay, personally speaking, I'm actually having quite a lot of luck with it. I'm doing some animation for a games company in Spain. They're making educational videos, and they wanted something where they could very, very easily switch different language files in and out. Movie Storm was a great way of doing this for them because it's fast and it's cheap, and all I need to do is to replace the audio, re-render it, and all the lip sync comes out quickly. I've also been using Movie Storm to do short commercials for people and so on, so it's working for me. I know there are people out there who are making Movie Storm mods and selling them, and a couple of months ago I saw somebody who was advertising for, they needed a whole bunch of commercials making for an insurance business, basically explaining to people how insurance worked. And he just commissioned about 120 2-minute tutorials from somebody, and some guy in India took that on and is producing all these tutorials in Movie Storm. Sitting on my desk right next to me, I have 2 children's DVDs, which are on sale one of them's on sale in the UK at the moment, and will be going on sale in the US sometime next week. The second one's due to go live in November, and that's largely shot in Movie Storm. It's basically just kids' stories, little bits and pieces of stuff, and they've used a lot of Movie Storm for it. So there's Movie Storm being used in a full commercial production environment, which was quite surprising. I've also found people using it to pitch their businesses. There's a guy I'm talking to tomorrow who works for a creative design agency, and he needed a tool where he could show his idea, and basically figured that Movie Storm was a much faster way of producing an interesting video than trying to shoot it live action, which was another use we never really thought we could. It is being used by quite a few people in a commercial environment, which I'm very surprised by, but well, not very surprised by, very pleased by, but some of the uses I've found have been surprising. Mary, you asked about YouTube account with samples. If you look at the Vimeo account that I posted a couple of minutes ago, that has a bunch of samples of what'll work. So, Friday. Third-party tools for importing animations. The Modders Workshop will allow you to import stuff, but you have to make the animations in a third-party tool. Blender works well. You can use Max if you've got Max. It'll need the Cal 3D plugin. Or if you want to build props and sets like that, Google SketchUp will work. So you can either just bring stuff straight in from SketchUp or from the Google Warehouse, or make your own. ZBrush, I don't know about, to be honest. Poser, no. The problem with Poser is that the models are such high poly that they tend to blow up almost any other engine other than Poser. So there we go. But yeah, Max will work. Yes, there is a free trial. Let me just find that for you. Daz 3D, same as Poser, that won't work. So there's the main site. You can click on download. For those who are interested in modding, there's a link there. So, yep, Chantal steered me back towards the book and saying what else is in it. Okay, the first volume is all about camera work, and it's about how you control your camera to get the kind of shots that you want. The second volume, the idea is these will be released monthly, and they'll be released free initially, and then we'll compile them into a book. So grab them while they're going. Second volume will be about staging, and this is much more from the director's point of view about where you place your actors. One example is, for example, if you film a scene with a couple of people in a restaurant, you could use extras or not. So if you're filming it without extras, you don't want the restaurant necessarily to look empty, so you're going to keep everything fairly close together. On the other hand, if you've got half a dozen extras in this restaurant, how are you going to film that scene differently? Are you just going to have them invisible in the background, but otherwise do it the same way? You could do, but maybe not. Maybe you want these extras to actually do something. You might want to focus on them from time to time, use them for reaction shots, or just cut differently. So that would be the kind of exercise where you're asked just different ways of staging it. Or another example would be if you have a scene which you film in a fairly small room, then you film this exact same scene in a larger room. Again, would you film it in exactly the same way, or would you make use of that space somehow? Yeah, the characters can walk further, they can do more, they could be further apart, they could be closer together. How are you going to make use of that space? So staging is the next one. Volume 3 is all about editing. For me, editing is one of the most important parts of the movie. I always think editing is where the movie gets made. The director's job is to produce you all the raw material which you're going to make it out of, but the editor is the person who puts it together. I don't know if any of you have seen the Scary Mary trailer that's floating around YouTube. If not, go and look it up. It's probably the single best piece of editing I've ever seen in my life. It's just the trailer for Mary Poppins recut to make it into a horror movie. And that, to me, is just a perfect example of how it's the editor who makes the movie and defines the movie. Now, from the point of view of the director, the more you know about editing, the better understanding you're going to get of what the editor is going to do to it and how you can make the editor's life easier. And, of course, one of the great things about Machinima is that I have never yet made a movie which has been edited by someone else. I've always edited my own movie. And not only that, I'm editing it as I shoot. So I'm trying something, edit together. If I don't like it, I'll go back and change it there and then. It's so different to working with live action where you edit it all later. Greg asked, what software do I use for editing? Well, I do the first cut of editing actually in Movie Storm. It has an editing suite built in, so I'm shooting, I can stick that into my final scene and see how it looks, shoot the next bit, stick it in. If I then need to do anything else to it, I can edit it in Premiere later and add all sorts of extra visual effects and so on. But yeah, I use Movie Storm for making a rough cut. And as I said before, if you think of it as a film sketching tool, then yeah, it's a good enough rough cut for what I need. The fourth volume is about lighting. Movie Storm has a reasonable lighting engine. It's not nearly as good as the lighting engine you'll get in something like Max or indeed modern games, but it's fairly versatile. One of the kind of tricks that I love being able to do is to put a light fairly close to a character, and then you can hide it so the camera can't see it. The light is still there, but it's invisible to it. The light itself is invisible, which is a great effect. And that's a great way of simulating the kind of spotlights and so on you can get onto, or you get on a movie set. And lighting is a really, really important way to change the whole look and feel of your movie. So there's another volume on that. Then there's another volume on sound. And again, this is one of my usual mantras, is I'll talk about how movies are an audio-visual medium. It's not about what you see, it's about what you see and hear. And too many people just forget about the audio. So we have a huge chunk of of stuff in there about how you can use Machinima to practice your audio techniques, whether it be sound effects or ambient sound or music, or even just making sure that the sound of the actor's voice has the right effects on it, that it sounds like it's in the place that it's supposed to be. It's so off-putting if you hear a character who's supposed to be out in a barren desert and it sounds like they recorded it inside a bathroom or something. So we talk a lot about that. Then there may or may not be a final volume about miscellaneous bits and pieces, and another one on advanced camera work techniques. I suspect what will actually happen is that we'll combine all of those 5 volumes into a complete book and then add some extras on so that it's still worth getting the book, even if you've looked at the previous versions. I'm kind of hoping that that's going to get picked up by a specialist film publisher. If not, we'll just release it as an ebook. And it's something which I've already taken to a bunch of film schools and said, what do you think of this just as a training tool? And I'm getting interest from people saying, this would make a perfectly reasonable standard textbook for people to use and work on. So I'm hoping that'll take off. Do feel free to go to the website and download it and see what you think. Give me feedback and pass it on to your friends. So there's the blog post there, which will tell you a bit more about the book and where to get it from and so on. It's a PDF at the moment. When it's compiled, I'll have it ready for Kindle, Nook, iPad, and all those other kind of sweet books. So yeah, grab it now while it's free and pass it on. When I finish that, the next one I've got is a book about using Machinima for pre-visualization. So I'm going to be busy writing for a while. Somewhere back there, if I can catch it, how do we see the software progressing to the next level? The thing that I want to do more than anything else is try and integrate MovieStorm better with other tools. My personal desire is to have it integrated with Celtex, because I want a way of being able to write my script and immediately see that script turn into a movie, even if it's just half a scene at a time. So I'm just building it as I go. I talked a little while ago to a fascinating guy called Gabriel Calos Munini, who's he's from Florida, and he's going back to a technique which was actually put together by Francis Ford Coppola called the electronic cinema. And what Coppola did was he had this idea that he wanted to lay out his movie in his editing suite right at the very beginning. So he would start off by putting in stills and put them together. He would write out his script almost as subtitles, and then he could start laying in music and sound effects. So from the very beginning, he could watch this film as almost like an animatic, just as an animated storyboard right from the very beginning. And then as he would shoot, he could just replace the stills with bits of footage. And he'd start off with just concept art or drawing or anything, but all the way through you've got this movie. And I think that's a great concept. It's a fascinating way to make a movie. And I think bringing in a tool like Celtex is a good start to that, because it's a full pre-production environment. You can write your script in it, you can create your storyboard, you can start making notes. If this was a live action production, you could make notes on what props you need and where you're going to get them and which actors you're going to cast and any kind of reference, and then start putting together your shooting schedule. And it's all collaborative as well, so you can share that with other people and they can see what's going on. And being able to put that together with the actual filming engine, I think, would be an incredibly powerful way to make movies, whether you make your movies in live action or anything else. I want to see MovieStorm becoming more collaborative. It's possible to collaborate on movies, and in fact, I've written a short book on how to collaborate on MovieStorm, but frankly, it's not as satisfying as I'd like it to be. It's a bit clumsy. It's primarily designed for one person at a time to work on, so although you can all work on the same project, it's about as easy as all working on the same Word document or the same Photoshop file. You're going to end up in a mess. So, yeah. And also, I want to be able to bring in a wider range of a wider range of platforms we can cover it. So we've been talking about having an iPad version. So again, I think that would be a great thing, is to be able to just sit wherever I am. As I said before, I can do it on my cheap Best Buy $300 laptop and it works, but I just kind of like the idea of being able to pull out my iPad and write a little bit of movie and then film a little bit of movie and send it to somebody else, no matter where I am or what I'm doing. That would just be fun. No, when I've done it before, it's just kind of nice when somebody looks over your shoulder and goes, "What are you doing?" "Yeah, I'm making a movie." "Are you serious?" "Yep." How much cooler would that be on an iPad, huh? So, yeah, those are the kind of things that we're looking at for next year. Okay, any other questions? I'll post one other link for you while I remember. That one there, the link to the docs, is all the how-to. If you're wondering how MovieStorm actually works, I could have shown you a video where I show you a movie being made from beginning to end in about 12 or 13 minutes. So complete with set design, character design, acting, filming, editing, rendering, and then posting it all directly to YouTube, all from within MovieStorm. But I figured if you want to go and watch that, go onto the website and watch that. There's also a huge collection of tutorial videos there, which take you through each of the major features. Well, not so much the features as the movie making elements you'll need, in somewhere between 1 and 3 minutes each. So things like, here's how you make your characters walk, here's how you make them talk, here's how you interact with props, things like how to open a window, how to drive a car, how to fly a UFO, and so on. And there's a bit of a learning curve to it, but not as much as there is with some of the other. And there's the link to the page, which will tell you how much it costs. Assuming we've done our job right, it should magically come up in the right currency for wherever you are. The US pricing is, if you want the complete version of MovieStorm with all the bells and whistles and all 40 odd content packs and so on, it's about $200. You can get a light version of it with just a few of the content packs, is about $75. If that's more than you want to pay, we have a rental option at the moment, which basically allows you to pay $10 a month to use it for as long as you like. $10 a month to use it, or we have annual memberships and so on. So you can tailor the cost to what you can afford. That includes the full version of the software, content packs, Modders Workshop, and everything else. And the trial version, just so you know, it's not limited in any way at all, except that it puts a watermark on it and just says MovieStorm, www.moviestorm.co.uk across your movie. But otherwise it's complete there. We've been talking about a MovieStorm Lite for next year, which would be free in perpetuity. The main thing we haven't decided yet is what we should disable in it. Because, let's be honest, we are a commercial company and we are trying to persuade people to buy product off us so that we can keep making it. But certainly we can see the idea for the rationale for a very light version of it, which enables you to make movie. So, sorry, but Bubble Pop, I'm not quite sure what you mean there. If you look at the membership fee, you've got options between 1 month, annual, or permanent licenses, and you can either buy a subset of the packs. Typically there are about 9 or 10 packs in each of the packs, or you could buy the whole lot, which is about 40 packs. On top of that, there's also a vast range of mods available from people. Some of the mods are commercial. There's people out there making stuff typically around the sort of $2 to $5 amount, or there's a lot which is available free. So there's a thriving mod community, which is something we very much wanted to encourage. And we're happy to promote people's mods. Somebody called Shirley Martin, who had produced a vast collection. She did a whole range of Victorian stuff because she was making a Jack the Ripper movie and wanted all of that, so she made it available. She did some Wild West stuff because there were so many people who come from the movies and said, hey, why can't we make westerns? And she went, okay, well, here's some western stuff. And then she did some medieval stuff because she was making a fantasy movie and wanted some medieval characters. So that's just one modder has produced a load of stuff, and I'm sure you all know people in Second Life who produce vast numbers of mods. That's very much the kind of a community that we're trying to encourage. We do have a YouTube account, but frankly, I hate it. That Vimeo channel there has all the tutorial videos on it, so that's certainly worth having a look at. And yeah, there's our YouTube account. Yes, it's Mac and PC, and of course anything you create on a Mac you can easily transfer directly across to the PC, which is kind of cool. So it's all made in Java at the moment, which is what makes it cross-platform. And in fact, you can get it working on Linux as well. You require the right kind of thingy. I'm not quite sure what it is, but there's something or other you can use to make it work on Linux. Yeah. So yeah, we do stuff on. We have Twitter and Facebook and all of those usual sorts of places. So yeah, come and find us there and make friends with us over there. Okay, well, thanks very much for coming. It's great to see so many of you here. And yeah, do go and download the book and let me know what you think. And give me your feedback. I'd be really interested to find out how well it works for those of you who don't use MovieStorm, and also interested to find out if any of you decide to give MovieStorm a try. Yep, the whole book is available for download at the moment. There's the first volume, it's 40 pages or so, is out right now. By the time it's completed, it'll be about 200, maybe 250 pages. That's the point where we'll consider whether or not it's still available for free, so get it while you can.